You're listening to another episode of the Philly Sports Jabronis. Tonight's podcast is being recorded live at Nippers Bar and Pizza on Main Street in Jeffersonville, Pennsylvania. And now, on with the show. Philly gets gritty. It's a football Thursday for the Philly Sports Jabronis. I'm Joe Dower with Jamie Toman, Rob Sr., and Carlos Slade.
What's up, ladies?
We're undergoing a score here.
It's already done. Minnesota decided to show up for this game. It looks like, at least in the beginning.
Wait, I thought every touchdown now caught by a Minnesota wide receiver goes under review, based on what happened last week. Did it really happen?
I don't know. I didn't see many touchdowns from Minnesota last week at all.
We're going to be up to our original, hijinks tonight. We're going to get in. Actually, we're probably going to talk more about Minnesota this week than we have in a while when we get around to going down the slate of Survivor picks for this week.
Takes.
For those who actually are still in Survivor leagues, whether it's related to a buyback or just if you're still keeping the train rolling, not to boast, but I still am rolling in a league since I took Seattle last week. But we'll talk about that later. We're live at Nippers, and glad to be here as always. And before we... Actually, you know what? No, I want to parlay this. What's more gritty? The way the Eagles are winning games when they win games, or this Amish jack-o'-lantern that's skating around Wells Fargo Center? What's everyone's thoughts on this mascot before we get into an Eagles team that's now 2-1?
I guess my overall summary thought here is, think back a month ago, for those of us with kids when school was starting. Thank you. The Phillies were somewhere like 10, 12 games over 500. Looked like they were going to push for their first playoff berth in 8 years.
How long ago does that feel?
Yeah, I know. Defending Super Bowl champions. 10 days away from making their debut, and nobody knew who the starting quarterback was going to be. The Sixers, off their first playoff appearance in about as many years, making all kind of noise. If I had told you on that night we would be sitting here on September 27th talking about the Philadelphia Flyers in any way, shape, or form, you would have called me any number of names that I probably shouldn't say right now. And that alone is why this was a good move.
Here's the thing, though. I know Gregor. Gregor won't be joining us tonight. He's on deadline, and it's a shame because I wanted to hear him like actually sing Gritty's praises instead of just texting it because I really wanted to be able to believe it. But here's the thing about the whole marketing angle to this. I'd be more inclined to see that as a viable, good thought for what's going on here if the Flyers were otherwise really a total embarrassment. You know what I mean? Because this is not supposed to be a team that needs to rely on its mascot to get people in the buildings, right? Like we're in the building. We're talking about a team that should absolutely be in the playoffs, and probably for the most part, if they're depending on the goalie situation, like we've been saying since who the hell knows, could possibly even contend to win a playoff series or so. But yeah, I get it. The marketing aspect behind it. If you truly look at it through the lens of people are talking about us, well, damn Skippy, they sure are. You look at it as a good marketing move, Rob. But what are your thoughts on if you had let's say a 6-year-old who's probably right around that age where you're talking about, going to a professional sports game, no matter what sport it is, and remembering it and getting something out of it. Do you think this is an attraction for kids at least, or is this anything? Anything more beyond talking about it?
When I look at that thing, when I look at the mascot, what I see is something that was almost done tongue in cheek. Like, there's no way Mike in marketing looked at this thing and he said, This beautiful creature is going to help us appeal to the younger demographic, which is an area where we're struggling because the Flyers are the bastion of middle-aged white dudes who live in Haddonfield. There was no way. What I've read and what I think could be part of the truth is 27 out of 31, don't quote me on those numbers, NHL teams have a mascot.
Right.
Of the ones who don't, the Flyers are by far the highest profile. Somebody in the league office encouraged them to have a mascot. Now, this franchise is as old school as they come. Jesus Christ, they're still running the team like it's 1976. They didn't want a mascot, but the league insisted. So they did the most ridiculous thing you could think. I think there might be something to that.
All right. I mean, that's interesting.
Because aside from the semi-hipster, semi-irreverent Philadelphia fan, and there's plenty of them, don't get me wrong, I can't imagine who this appeals to. I mean, the Fanatic's a classic, and there's people who are scared of him, little kids, right?
Right.
I seen you mention Big Shot. I remember that thing when I was a kid. I don't think he was scary as much as he was just goofy.
Right.
This thing is freaking frightening.
It is, and the thing with the thing with Big Shot in particular is, I think Big Shot gets away with certain things because, I mean, I believe it was launched in the 80s.
Big Shot doesn't get away with anything.
Weird.
He was replaced by a literal rabbit.
Yeah, and that was a poorly envisioned mascot. But the thing is, you know, my first thought was, you know, I hope they're not trying to emulate the Fanatic, first of all. I hope that they're not even trying to emulate, like, Big Shot, because, you know, Big Shot 20, 25 years later, whatever, is kind of look at this, like, nostalgic, endearing kind of thing. But the thing of it, and in the 80s, he was probably pretty much appreciated, but that's because the 80s were straight up weird. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
But
I mean, the 1980s,
they embraced weird.
You look at the mascots that were cool in the 1980s. And this is why I'll give credit to the Fanatic. The San Diego Chicken. Mm-hmm. There was a time that the San Diego Chicken was probably a bigger deal than the Fanatic.
Probably, yeah. And it is a cool mascot.
You know, I mean, that's like nothing about that thing says San Diego to me.
Carlos and Jamie, what are your initial thoughts on Gritty?
Next question.
Yeah, I woke up and saw it. Like, what is this disaster that they came out with? But you can tell it's an absolute work. I mean, he came out in the ice first. He fell down on purpose right away, and then shot one of the other employees in the back with a T-shirt can.
Oh, God.
So you can tell it's just a complete work going on. And then next thing you know, he's on Good Morning America later in the morning. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
So he fell out on purpose and is endearing. It sounds like he's the Jack Tripper of mascots.
Shooting the guy on the ice with the T-shirt cannon too is just like, and then the whole backstory that, you know, he was unearthed while they were doing renovations at the Wells Fargo, and this whole complicated backstory. You know, he eats snow off the back of the Zamboni.
Right, the backstory I think is actually funny, and you know what I mean. I do think that the backstory has a lot going for it. I just, you know, and Rob brings up a good point about how, you know, maybe this is just they're making a mockery of it. I mean, that'd be pretty risky move, but who's to say that they're not?
Well, then too, Joe, he goes and he threatens the Pittsburgh Twitter account with
he's definitely,
when they go on his first day. He threatens the Pittsburgh Twitter account.
Right,
so
and that might be
that's going to get anybody in Philly over.
Exactly,
is to do that kind of stuff.
That will be the saving grace if this thing really ends up being a tormentor. you can't promote bullying, right, for obvious reasons anymore. Maybe never should have, but anyhow, you know, the Flyers and the term bully, you're certainly not going to name a mascot bully or something like that. But if you can get away with being a tormentor, you know, maybe that could work for you, especially poking fun at the Penguins.
I got the NBA league.
That'll help.
I was just going to say, I got the NBA League Pass a couple years ago.
Right.
And New Orleans introduced a Pelican mascot that was a really...
Oh, is that the one where he came out the egg and everything?
Pierre the Pelican or whatever. And it was not a well-advised costume either. This thing blows it off the charts. I mean, honest to God, I'm not a mascot guy. Like, one of my favorite things about the University of Michigan is there is no mascot.
Right.
You know, the Miami Hurricanes have that ridiculous-looking ibis.
Hey.
I think when I was a kid, that's why I chose one over the other. I had two favorite teams and eventually picked one. I think that stupid-looking ibis is the reason why. I mean,
I thought
Ice Cube
Watch it
immortalized it. That
Is that- is
as
it-
a Miami Hurricane.
Is it an ibis?
mean,
I thought it was a stork. It's not a stork?
No, it's called an ibis.
Okay.
I just called it a duck for a long time, but I learned it's actually an ibis. Anyway, my point is, mascots to me are cute things for kids. That is the purpose that they serve. And it's not teams I like or teams I dislike. I think Mr. Met is one of the stupidest things I've ever laid eyes on in my life.
Right,
too.
right.
So that's where I'm struggling here, because no kid who's not going to end up eating paste in the back of the classroom anyway is going to be enamored of this thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, to me, mascots, they should almost be. I don't want to say they shouldn't be like not noticeable. Not that they should be neutral. But I mean, I'm someone who thinks that Philly Fanatic is a great mascot.
Agreed.
It's something that you see whether for the first time or the 100th time, and you say, like, this thing is unique. What the heck is it? But it's a good character. You know what I mean? It does funny skits, and some people will say that that he's like old hat. And he does the same things over and over and over again. But I think it's actually like a funny character. With Gritty, my initial first of all, my initial impression was this can't be real. I had to check my temperature, my blood pressure, I threw some water in my face, make sure I wasn't actually sleeping. Because the backstory good, the name good. He's orange, so they got the color right. Facial hair for those who can grow it, not like myself. I'm walking around with a rat on my face. But for those who can actually grow decent facial hair, that's the end thing. So he's got some cool facial hair going. But then then the eyes, he looks like Steve Buscemi, Crazy Eyes. Someone smacked him in the head with a baseball bat. And that's kind of, I think, where I'm losing any hope that they can actually sustain anything with this thing. Is this going to be like a one and done thing? Maybe
I don't know. There is part of me that thinks on opening night, whenever their first home game is, it's going to be like April Fool's in October or something. Maybe
I was saying they should have done this on April Fool's and made everyone guess is it real or not.
I've seen literally dozens of Twitter memes about this thing. The one that made me laugh though was a picture of Yukon Cornelius from Rudolph the Reindeer and Scott Hartnell.
Okay,
and it said, "Always wear your rubber," because it showed the two of them with Gritty.
I think I did see that one, and I saw the.
I saw Yukon Cornelius with the Bumble, and it was always wear a condom, and then it was that plus it was a Yukon Cornelius plus the Bumble equals, and then this picture of Gritty.
That was a good one, and I would say the only two that immediately jumped to mind of all the many that I've seen was the one where the Gritty is Pennywise in the sewer, and he's saying we got Stanley Cups down here. And the one where it said, can you tell me how to get to Somerset Street?
Actually, I'd after that one.
Okay,
if I had
so
$1 for every Kenzo joke I've read about this. My God, we'd be drinking for free tonight.
We have another score, by the way. The Rangers punched it in.
Kenzo Grimace and Kenzo Fanatic. There's a lot of that.
And for just for foreshadowing purposes, I think it's safe to say none of us were going to suggest the Rams Vikings game tonight in Survivor, but we'll get into Survivor a little bit pretty soon. Let's actually get to the actual Football Thursday portion of the program now. What's everyone's take quickly? Not quickly, but what's your quick shot take? Expand on it. But when I say this, just let me know what jumps to mind. Eagles now being 2-1. They've won two grinded out games. One with Carson Wentz, one without. Sandwiched within that game was a road game to Tampa that may or may not still have caught lightning in a bottle. That team they put up. It was an interesting game on Monday night. They almost came back. I guess kind of never really felt like it was their game to come back in. But anyhow, as far as the Eagles go, where they sit at 2-1, we have to actually acknowledge. Carson Wentz is back, but. Looks like Alshon Jeffrey is maybe the equivalent of minutes restriction for like Joel Embiid was for a little while. Like maybe he'll come back and do some practicing, but it doesn't look like he's actually going to play anytime soon. McLeod now is
He's gone.
out for the year, so we definitely got a real injury to talk about on the defensive side of the ball. So mingle those things in if you'd like, but generally speaking, I wanted to ask where they sit at 2-1, the two types of wins that they've had versus the loss that they had. Still kind of feels a little Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde-ish, like I was talking about last week when they were 1-1. But where do you guys? How do you guys look at this team now after week 3? And is this team closer to? If I lay if I put the ceiling at, I'm sure everyone would agree with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Rams are like the ceiling of the like they kind of like are the BC NFL right now. Is that fair to say? Like if we put them in the elite class, are the Eagles closer to them or closer to the bottom feeders? What you've seen out of them? 3 weeks, granted, Carson Wentz in for 1 game.
Yeah, real quick, they're surely still closer to the top echelon than the bottom echelon. I'm not even sure I would say they're out of the top echelon. But it's clearly, so far, it's the year after. You're getting everybody's best shot. I haven't seen you guys in a couple weeks, so I haven't gotten to rant and rave about Sarkisian's game plan on opening night. But
Thank you.
You got everybody's best shot. You got Indianapolis, who's supposed to be a bottom feeder. You got their best shot. And you know what? The year after you beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for the Super Bowl, it's hard to get up for a 1 p.m. 90-degree game in Tampa.
Yeah.
That's the one fear I have about this week. It's going to be hard to get up for a 1 p.m. game in Nashville. Now, here's the good part of that. This division sucks out loud, okay? Mm-hmm. The Redskins appear to be the second-best team in this division. So, likely, continuing to do what they're doing, which is winning 2 out of every 3 games, having letdowns here and there, is going to be enough to get you to the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, you're not worried about a letdown. Okay? The reason you're letting down right now is all the wonderful things that happened just 6-7 months ago. Like I said, how do you get up for a 1 p.m. game in Tampa on a Sunday in September when you're 7 months removed from winning the most dramatic Super Bowl of a long time?
Your only Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Your own, yeah. I mean, but the fashion in which they won it too. I think it's a classic year after scenario.
Let me ask you this way, and same thing for you and Jamie Carlos when you guys respond, because using the bottom feeder as option B was poor judgment. If we look at the Chiefs and the Rams and say clearly these are 2 elite teams right now in this year's NFL, can we say the Eagles are a third team or anybody else for that matter? Like, are the Eagles have they earned the right to be still called elite?
Okay, so here's your problem. You're sitting there and looking at the Eagles in the lens of what they were doing last year as they were just rolling through people. It's a case of back to reality a little bit.
But the Brady thing is real. I think
ultimately they are still a good team. I think ultimately they're still an upper echelon team. But the dominance that you got last year was, I don't want to say lightning in a bottle, but they just got hot. They got hot about, what do you want to say, about a quarter of the way, midway through the season, and just kept rolling. They had a hiccup once Wentz got hurt in Los Angeles. So those next couple of weeks with Foles looked a little hairy, but then they picked up right where they left off and steamed through the playoffs. So if you're looking at it in the vein of last year's team, then yes, they're going to look like a lesser team. And ultimately, they are a lesser team at this point. But that's with, pieces coming back. I figured that there had to be a little rust there, even though their first drive looked great. At some point, there has to be a little bit of rust, and I think a little rust was shown.
Right.
I think my bigger concern, if I was the Eagles fan, would be, when did the offensive line stop blocking? I saw Wentz take shots that he normally doesn't take.
And if you look at a Super Bowl hangover, I think the offensive line is probably one of the most susceptible, quote-unquote, units that's going to suffer a hangover. When you got to rely on your offensive line, you got to rely on, look at how much you have to rely on your offensive line to just win any football game. I think that is probably the best answer that I would have, kind of knee-jerk, as to why the offensive line may be doing what it's doing when on paper it should be at a certain caliber. I would think that when I think about Super Bowl hangover, I'm thinking it's going to affect the offensive line, probably the offense first and foremost in general. But yeah, it's probably the best answer I have.
I don't think we can ignore the injury side of things either. I don't know it's necessarily a hangover in that it's a mental issue. I think it's a physical issue. Look at the game Sunday. Their first and second running backs were out. Their third running back is dinged up in Corey Clement. Now, Smallwood had a much better game I thought he would ever have. Look at your wide receivers. Your number 1 wide receiver's out. Your number 3 wide receiver is now done for the year. So you're trying to move Nelson out of the slot, where he excels at, and do it that way. Tight ends have been okay. The line, Jason Peters was hurt. He played 5 snaps in the Tampa game and missed the rest of the entire game.
Right.
So when you look at last week, there's no way he was 100% last week, and it's just a matter of how long that's going to linger. And your franchise quarterback was out until this past week. So I don't know that it's a mental issue with lack of preparation. I think it's injury. Not to mention now one of their starting safeties is done for the year. I don't think it's a. I don't think it's a mental preparation thing. I think it's we need to get people back, get healthy. There will be some rust. Now, there's a winnable game this week, but then weeks 5 through 8, I think, given the schedule, are some pretty tough matchups.
Mm-hmm. Life gets real hard after London.
Life gets real hard in London.
So give Carson one more week to shake off some ring rust this week, and then we have to be going. And hopefully by then people are back. It sounds like Ajayi, I think I heard, is back this week. I'm not sure. I don't know where Sproles is yet, but again, I don't think it's a mental thing at all. I think it's just too many of your top tier players have been on the sidelines.
Yeah, they are. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I think overlooked in the fact that they overcame so many injuries to win it all last year is the idea that now these guys are coming back from injury. Not Wentz as much as Peters and Sproles are who I'm thinking about. Guys on the wrong side of 30, maybe the wrong side of 35, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like when I watch Peters now, I see a guy who's doing a lot of it on memory and just determination, experience.
Yeah, technique. Yeah.
Like the old Moses Malone in 1994 where everything's gone but the turnaround jumper. And that's still enough against a lot of guys. He's going to school some 22-year-old guys, but he's also going to get worked a little bit now and then against the truly elite. And the truly elite are coming on the schedule very soon.
Yeah.
Sproles, it's hard for me to believe he's ever going to be the same. And that's a little hot take-ish based off of what I watched on opening night. However, Wentz is back. And that could be a great deodorant for all of us.
Yeah, and I think it's as far as Sproles goes, you can't really, I think, in any capacity, think you're going to be able to rely on him to be anything more than a guy that's going to make a couple plays per game and hope that. But yeah, to the injury point, I think when Carlos mentioned comparing this year's team to last year's team, it's a natural thing to do. But I think aside from Carson Wentz, I think it's easy to forget that this team actually dealt with a ton of injuries last year.
Sure.
And even if you really want to be dramatic about it, you can talk about the draft and what injuries meant from the draft on the timeline. But and so that's just like I do think that this resiliency is still there with this team, and the Colts got their issues. Andrew Luck, may never be the way he looked a couple years ago for many reasons. I'm not someone who's in the camp of getting overworked because he got pulled for the final play because they didn't think he could get a Hail Mary into the end zone.
That's telling, though.
But it is something, exactly. I mean, it is something. But I just, I feel like what you call it, gritty. It was easy for me to call it gritty to open the podcast tonight because gritty is just all over the place. But it's gritty, it's resiliency. It still feels like this team has that. And to your point, to about Tennessee, if they lose in Tennessee, I'll be pretty surprised. I think this is the type of game that, okay, you already got your mulligan in a sense. You already got your everything from the weather, Rob, that you brought up, to just the fact that it was somewhat of a trap game coming off that grinded out win against a true contender in Atlanta, getting the banner down, dealing with all the elements that they dealt with last night. Yes, your quarterback's still not back. I feel like the Tampa Bay game, even though Tampa has played well for 3 weeks at 2-1, and even in their loss, they put up some points against a desperate Pittsburgh team and made it a close game on paper. I feel like the Eagles, this is kind of a statement game, I think, in some ways for them. Like, I know right now Tennessee is kind of winning games somehow that they shouldn't really be winning.
Newsflash, and we sat there and mentioned this last week when I was told that Jacksonville was going to win that game. Tennessee swept them last season. Tennessee has Jacksonville's number, so don't be shocked at that one at all.
Division game.
We're learning that Houston may not be as good as everyone, including myself, thought they were.
Yeah. And
Tennessee is who they are, but they find a way to win ugly games. They've done it for like the last 3 years running.
You gotta remember, year in, year out in this league, I think it's an average of like 6.5. Teams that made the playoffs the previous year make it back the next year. You figure on average, half a dozen teams that make the playoffs are not going to have been there last year, which means, newsflash, half the teams that were there aren't going to be there. If Tennessee is one of them, nobody's going to be surprised. Especially not in the AFC, where the Patriots have looked horrible in going 1-2, and still nobody's talking about Miami.
Bill Belichick, you owe me money, man.
Talk about getting smacked in the mouth.
I'll tell you what, we can get into that if you want to. I was at that game, and I mean, you know that movie is Benjamin Button where you watch the guy age before your eyes? That was Tommy Big. But I mean, who knows when they get their guys back? They'll rip off a 12-game winning streak and make us all look stupid.
Yeah.
But my point is here with the Eagles, listen to this upcoming slate after this week, okay? Minnesota in the revenge game to end all revenge games at home. That's
not as scary as it seemed a couple weeks ago, but we'll see. Still, I'm not here.
It's here. Less than 4 days later at the Giants for Thursday Night Football. Then you get the long rest before Carolina. Okay? Carolina at home. Then you go to London.
Carolina's the best team that you just mentioned.
Then you go to London. Okay?
Right now.
For Jacksonville.
Go ahead and bet Jacksonville right now.
You're off the week after that, of course. But then, out of that, Dallas at home. Okay? At New Orleans. Okay, then you got the Giants at home, which you should win. But to me, that is a brutal 7-game slate coming up there. I mean, you've got...
I think the Rams are right behind that too. So I think it's probably a tough 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the marquee matchup.
4 of them were playoff teams last year, right? Mm-hmm. 2 of the others are division rivals. And like I said, I mean the Giants kind of suck. But I mean,
they got to get their act together if they're going to make a game out of that.
Right. If you keep coming with these C+ efforts against teams who. You're getting everybody's best shot at Super Bowl champions, right? But these teams we're talking about, they have a reason. The Minnesota Vikings have a reason to give you the absolute best shot.
Yeah.
38-7 is going down in like Minnesota lore with Gary Anderson and all that other crap. Carolina, there's a team that, hey, one play this way, one play that way. Could have been them coming here in the second round rather than Atlanta.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like
on and on and on,
this Tennessee game feels like a statement game of sorts. They got to come out and make mincemeat of these guys, especially if Blaine from Pretty in Pink is starting the game.
Well, it looks like it is going to be Mariota.
It is going to be Mariota.
So I do feel that it's a bit of a statement game for the Eagles. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and peel the schedule down and talk about Survivor for those who are still around. We're Rich Bronies. We'll be back.
Can't get enough of the Philly sports jabronis? Want to get together over tea and scones and share with us your life story? No thanks. We hate tea and scones. But we do have a website you can visit that offers all the jabroni action you can handle. Go to www.phillysportsjabronis. That's JABRONIS.com. Yahoo! The Philly Sports Jabronis are everywhere. We're online. We're streaming through the internet airwaves.
Can you hear me?
We're probably hiding in your bushes.
Hey, get out of there.
Oh, and we have social media pages. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Philly Sports Jabs. And for God's sakes, trim your bushes. It's like Jumanji in here. Who are your top 5 Philly outfielders of all time? What's your pick for the top 5 all-time Philadelphia sports jerseys? Who are the top 5 Philly athletes you'd never let babysit your kids? Let us know by visiting My Top 5 at phillysportsjabronis.com and let us know. Again, that's My Top 5, and the website is phillysportsjabronis.com.
Jabronis, we're back. Okay, and we are going to get right into Week 4. As I kind of previously casually mentioned, as for Survivor purposes, we're kind of, when it comes to Thursday games, it's going to be a rare breed when we suggest a Thursday game, and if we ever do, you can be sure to find it on Facebook or Twitter or our site before a podcast. But right now, the Vikings are up 10-7. It's not even that they're desperate or anything like that tonight. They're probably giving the Rams the best game that they're going to give. They surely got reamed out, I'm sure, over the past couple days, sort of probably like Buffalo did last week. But Buffalo at 0-2 is a pretty desperate team, and as we've learned, the manifesto will tell us that you don't want to chase losers, and 0-2 teams can be pretty damn dangerous. Not that I, at all expected Buffalo to go ahead and win that game on the road, but the Thursday night game really wasn't on the radar, I think, for anyone for Survivor. Is that fair? Would anyone have suggested tonight's game?
Tonight?
Not for Survivor, but for entertainment purposes, there was definitely a live dog that was in play tonight.
If gambling were legal in this state yet, thanks a lot, Governor, I definitely would have thought Minnesota +7 was a good idea. And if you can see the underdog covering, you can see the underdog winning.
Right.
At least in my world. So
that's the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, would not have looked at that game.
All right, so I'm going to just run down the slate here, and as I'm going to go through, I'm going to list each game, and when I do, just if it's a game that you just completely and totally dismiss, just let it rip, let it be known why you would dismiss it. If it's a game that is somewhat tantalizing, I've used over the course of the last couple of weeks this new term that I've said, like, some games feel like they're simmering for me, like they're interesting, intriguing picks for whatever reasons, but can be on the radar of Survivor. Let's try to keep it to games that we're outright dismissing, games that have somewhat of an intrigue, and games that we really like this week, and for whatever reasons, we'll run this.
Did we start Cup?
Did we
start Cup?
Did we start Cup
Cooper
tonight?
Cup.
I believe yes.
All right, cool. He just went yard.
I can check for you for sure.
He just went yard big time. Okay,
I'll
on
look
with the
it up.
games.
So you're talking about the Jabronis fantasy team,
Yes.
right? I think he is in the starting lineup. I will make sure of that though.
In my league, and no, I did not.
Okay, starting off here, the Colts are hosting the Texans.
Not touching it.
No interest.
No interest at all. All right, is it just because it's a division game, or why? Is it just they can't figure out these two teams yet?
Don't know who they are yet.
Spread. Indianapolis coming off of probably somewhat of a kitchen sink game, as I would call it, where they threw everything they had at it and came up just short. Houston coming off of a loss that I feel like I saw it coming. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I mean, I'm just not trusting either one of them.
Dear Bill O'Brien, start to sell your house now.
This game, I think I know what the reaction to this game is going to be. For those folks who still have the Packers as a play, and it's probably a fair amount of them, the Packers are hosting the Buffalo Bills.
I don't think until I know more about Rodgers' health am I going near it.
Okay.
Typically, I think that would be one I'd be really interested in, but I don't know how banged up he is. I mean, they went out last week and lost, and it's still unclear where he's at.
At the end of the day, this is a good spot for the Packers. That being said, I tend to agree with you a little bit as far as, maybe there's something better out there, because I don't know if Rodgers is 100%, and if he's not 100%, that can go down really, really quick.
So we feel like if you have the benefit of being in a league where you literally can make your pick up until the coin toss or up until the kickoff, you pay attention to what is happening with Aaron Rodgers.
No, Rodgers is going to play. That's not the issue.
Right.
The question is how healthy is he going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So stay away for those purposes.
Well,
not necessarily stay away, but you're going to.
I'm not
going to
say stay away, but there might be a better value game out there.
Yeah, I agree. Generally speaking, I mean, you got the Bills again on the road. I'm not going to say the cliche is they won their Super Bowl last week, which I'm not going to say that.
We'll probably get to this, but I'm just going to say that there is a game on the schedule where every reason that you would like Green Bay, you should like this other team I'm looking at.
Okay.
For those same reasons, and probably like them more so.
Generally speaking, when I was, and I'll point them out as we go along, but generally speaking today, I do a little bit of thinking about the games. I like to have some thoughts on the fly as we're going here, but I absolutely do think about the schedule a little bit. Right now in my mind, there are two games, there are two teams that I really like, and I like these teams more than the Packers, currently speaking. So yeah, the Packers are interesting, but yeah, I think this game is setting up as the quintessential. There are other games out there that are less risky. The Bears are hosting the Buccaneers. 1:00 game. Buccaneers coming off of Monday night loss, so short week for them. The Bears.
Who's their quarterback?
Here's the problem. It's going to be
It's going to be Fitz, yeah.
Here's the problem with that one. I don't trust Trubisky. I can't sit there and put anything on him for anything that's worthwhile money-wise.
It's true. I thought he'd be better at this point right now.
This is a good spot for the Bears. It's a game the Bears should be able to win, but I do not trust Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
And as a Raiders fan, I hope they lose.
Yeah, I think Buccaneers are on their descent back down to earth a little bit, but yeah, either way, I'm not going to go near it.
I'm with you.
I'm passing.
I like Chicago here. I would put them probably in my top 3 or 4 options for this week, if not considering things like who have I already taken, because it just gets complicated. I like Chicago a lot here.
I like them as a very the number of teams and tiers here are very few, but I would definitely put the Bears as a tier 2 team for me. Tier 2 team. But real quick though, Carlos, as far as Khalil goes, so are you like? So you're not gonna embrace the Bears at all? Like you're just
he's just messing with you now.
Have we met?
So something went over my head, but
that wasn't a mutual breakup where we all hug each other and agree to go away as friends.
I have no problem with Khalil Mack, but I want to see exactly how bad the Raiders can blow the draft picks that Chicago gives them. In order to do so, Chicago has to lose games.
All right, fair enough. Okay, yeah. So something did go over my head. Okay,
you're not that tall, so it's not that hard.
Oh my god. Okay. I think this is going to be a game on a lot of people's radar. However, for a few reasons, I would encourage it not to be. The Patriots are playing host to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think I would pretty much echo what you just said. While I certainly feel the Patriots will win the game, I'm not going to say I don't trust Tom Brady. That's the stupidest thing I can possibly say. However, I don't know what the hell that team is.
They could be a legitimate mess.
Listen, I mean, I keep bringing this up because I'm so proud of myself, but I said they would never be the same after they played Jacksonville.
Right.
And this is some kind of game. If that's Denard Robinson, what a game he's having. If it's just some other guy named Robinson. Okay. Anyway, I have no idea what New England is right now, but I know what Miami is, and that's 3-0. I haven't been given a reason to trust New England, and I haven't been given a reason to distrust Miami. It's a stay away from me.
We're on to Cincinnati. Watch what happens this weekend.
Yeah. Between a divisional matchup where you would think this, it's in Foxborough, so you'd think this would be an easy Patriots win. I'm not sure that the eventual decline and rebuild of the Patriots is not upon us, so I'll avoid them for the time being.
Right. The saving grace in this game is the fact that Miami is actually 3-0. They're due for a loss. I don't think that they're.
But that was last week.
They should have lost last week.
Yeah.
They should have lost a couple of weeks.
Right.
They're not a good 3-0 team, but at the
they're
end
winning
of the day,
games.
they're 3-0.
But I'm saying that the fact that they are 3-0 makes it a little tantalizing. The Patriots did lose last week, so they're more inclined to be wanting to win this game. But to that point, when you talk about the team like the Patriots, a team that's used to being elite, if this team does have a level of drama that is real, they might not know how to handle being a team that is not elite and can win games above the drama. You know what I mean?
They've been doing that for like the last decade. Every single year, they pretty much start slow, and every single year they sit there and get it figured out.
I know, but
until something changes.
But there's a real mess here.
I think
that's the only thing.
There's a real mess last year. There's a real mess a couple of years. It's just nothing new until they just sit there and, for lack of a better term, bleep the bed. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
If they lose this week, is that it? Is that bleeping the bed?
I don't know about bleeping the bed, but
you got to look at the division.
That's going to put you 1-3 with a 4-0 team in the division.
With that division and the fact that 4-0 team is Miami, I would not actually be terribly worried.
Right.
No,
I wouldn't be worried. That being said, that's definitely a reason to start to put up some flags if they were to sit there and take this L this weekend.
Going back to that earlier conversation about half the teams in the league making the playoffs turns over every year. Every year you watch these shows on NFL Network where these guys try to predict who they are, right? And every year those guys come off looking like idiots. Because nobody said New England was going to miss the playoffs, and I don't think anybody else said that Miami was going to make them, right?
Right.
Every year somebody comes out of nowhere, and while I don't think it's going to happen...
Are you putting it on wax?
Hell no. If Miami wins this week, I mean, what are your historical statistics on teams going 4-0 and making the playoffs? 90 something, right?
It has to be huge.
So, but he's got a point too. If you could trust anybody to start off hot and fall apart late, ever since I was a kid rooting against them because of the Jets, the Miami Dolphins have been a pretty good bet to fall apart down the stretch.
Yeah, I don't really believe in this Miami team a lot at all right now. Which is why I'm saying the one saving grace of this game, and I'm not advocating taking this game as one of your top tier takes, but the fact that Miami is 3-0 makes me like this game a little bit more than I otherwise would. For survivor purposes.
It's a super huge game for the Patriots too, because they historically struggle in Miami. So I mean, you can pretty much, I think they've lost like the last 4 straight down there in South Beach, something to that effect. So at this point, you can pretty much. I understand that one.
Okay.
I'm talking about later on in the season.
Oh, okay.
I'm foreshadowing. So basically, they need to win this game because historically they just don't do well when they go down to South Beach. You pretty much set your clock to it each season. So if there's any time for them to show up and wake up, it's this week. If they don't, then it's red flag panic time.
The Cowboys are hosting the Lions.
I've made it part of my personal manifesto never to go for or against the Lions ever again. The Lions have knocked me out of more survivor pools over the last 10 years than I care to reflect on. So on that basis, I'm a pass, but also I do think that the Lions win that game.
Yeah, this is to me the prototypical game to pass on. There's really no way of knowing who will win this game. I agree that this should be a game that the Lions, the Lions should be clearly better than the Cowboys at this point and should be able to win this game on the road. I think, especially with, maybe it took them 1 week to need the rebound.
I'm sorry, did you say the Lions should win a road game?
With the way this Cowboys team looks, yeah. I'm not touching this game.
So
That's the thing to take away from this is this is a game to not look at for survival.
So
it doesn't exist.
Agreed.
So let me tell you, this is my second favorite game on the schedule.
Okay.
Here's why. Take everything you just said. Now I'm going to tell you Dallas is 3.5-point favorites. Why?
The only thing is, I to this day still cannot figure out a way in my own mind to parlay the point spreads with how I go with the ebb and flow that I see in my mind. So that would be the only. So for my personal suggestions, I can't incorporate the point spread because I can't figure that out the way you have. So, but I'd be interested to hear why.
Okay, so for me, this may be a personal experience thing as well. Like I said, I was at that Lions-Patriots game Sunday night. And I'm going to tell you, it's not like I hang out at pro football games in Detroit all that often, but I can't imagine Ford Field has been that loud
They were ready,
any time in recent memory.
Yeah.
The place was rocking. And then we're in the airport the next morning, and we're seeing footage from the Lions locker room of these guys hugging Patricia like he just announced his wife gave birth to twins.
All right, there you go. Now I got you.
That game was so much to that city and to that franchise.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of condescending because, after 60 years of failure, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. After 61 years of failure, the Lions are making a big deal out of beating the Patriots. It sounds condescending the way I'm saying it.
No. It's all. I'm picking up what you're throwing down. It all makes absolute total sense.
How do you beat the Patriots and beat the hell out of them at home on a Sunday night and turn around 6 days later, take that trip down to Texas against a desperate team in Dallas, and get that effort that you need?
It's totally going to. That's the coach. This is going to be the coach is going to. Before we see how that game plays out, the NFL coach in this instance is going to play a big role from an emotional standpoint as to what the Lions can and cannot do.
Spoiler alert, they both suck.
I know, but listen to what he's saying, though.
Neither one of these are good teams, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying Dallas is going to beat them because Dallas is better than we think or anything like that. I'm saying
the emotional crash.
The NFL.
Are you going to go 10-3-3 on us?
I don't get it. So.
I'll explain to you later.
It's the emotional ebb and flow we're talking about here.
Yeah, there's 5 good teams, 5 bad teams, and 22 in the middle. These are two of the 22 in the middle for me, and it's a bad spot for Detroit. It's not necessarily a great one for Dallas, especially as I look at their upcoming schedule. But here's the other thing: it's a sandwich for Detroit too. New England at home, Green Bay at home next week.
Yeah.
What's in the middle? A road trip to Dallas. Dallas doesn't
you make a pretty good case.
So
you make a pretty good case
for me. If my number one choice, which I think we'll get to, isn't available, Dallas would be my pick this week.
You make a pretty good case. Jamie, you have a feel for this game either way?
I think Cowboys quarterback is doo-doo, so that's going to impact things. But again, it's on my personal manifesto never to go near.
Right, you did say that. I'm sorry.
I'm never going to go near a Lions game again. So I see all the points,
Dallas
but I still think the Lions should go eat this one out.
Dallas needs to start taking lessons from what's going on in Pittsburgh with Le'Veon Bell right now and start treating Ezekiel Elliott like Method Man. Keep feeding him and feeding him and feeding him and feeding him.
Falcons.
I was just going to say, there's nothing else on that offense.
Yeah, that's true. Tavon Austin, is making max production out of one ball handle. That's a trend that cannot last. The Falcons host the Bengals. We're still in the 1 o'clock zone. On Sunday, the Falcons are coming off quite a marathon again. It seems like every week kind of feels like some kind of marathon for them. Bengals a bit of a surprise team. This game to me is, if for different reasons a game you can definitely find much better games to play. I'm not taking this game. I feel like you have two good teams. Falcons better team than the Bengals. This is a game to me that I'm going to basically ignore though.
For survivor purposes, yeah, it's a no-fly zone. Don't touch this one.
Yeah, interconference game with a home favorite in general is something I stay away from, especially when you look at the Falcons, who have been in 3 dogfights, last 2 against divisional opponents. Here's another weird thing about this game for those of us who are point spread inclined. This is Atlanta's 3rd straight home game, which is a really rare thing in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't have any stats on that,
is there a trend?
but
Yeah,
it is something.
yes.
It is something to keep in mind. You're saying that's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't got to travel at all.
These situations
otherwise
come up maybe a handful of times, if even that.
We got one in it tonight with the Rams.
Yeah. So 3rd straight home game, but the last 2 were dogfights against divisional opponents. I don't like the game either way.
Yeah, I think Bengals are better in my mind than I thought they were going to be.
Absolutely.
And Falcons are probably worse in my mind than I thought they were going to be. So, yeah, I'm going to pass on that one as well.
The Jags play host to the Jets. We're still in the 1 o'clock zone. Generally speaking, I kind of have a feeling that this is going to be a game that at least a good amount of folks are going to look at. Me personally, no. I don't know if I'm ready to say I have a really incredible feel for either one of these 2 teams, except for the fact that obviously we know that the Jags defense is more than legitimate. But I like other games on the schedule that we're going to get to. Personally, this is a game that I'm bypassing pretty quick. Is anyone looking at this game?
I have no problem rolling the Jags. I'll do border service on this one.
You're putting them like high confidence pick,
Yeah.
for the Jags on this one. Okay.
It would be in my top 3 or 4. It's not my favorite, but I trust the Jets to ugly the game up, because that's what they do.
So do
But
the
Jacksonville,
Jags.
I was just going to say Jacksonville's a master of playing ugly, and I think that despite the Jets having a little extra rest, coming off that Cleveland debacle,
Jags coming off of a loss.
Cleveland showed that you can rattle Darnold, which is okay. I mean, he's about 3 months older than my daughter, so he's supposed to be rattled. And if Cleveland can rattle you, imagine what Jacksonville can do to you. So I think if you took this, you might be sweating a little bit at halftime, but you'll be happy by the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that defense at home versus rookie quarterbacks tough to walk away from. It's on my short list.
Duval! Go ahead.
No, you guys make a good case. I could see that. I mean, obviously, like I said, I acknowledge the D. I still probably personally won't be looking at this one, but it's certainly not a total. You make a point. You make points at least where it's not a total game to avoid. But I still like the game I'm going to mention next a little bit more, and that is and I think everyone knows I'm not a homer when it comes to prognosticating what the Eagles are going to do week to week. But the Eagles going to the Titans, I like this game a lot, and I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that game pretty strongly where I sit here Thursday night.
Okay,
That's
so
a good game for me to take the Eagles.
So I don't know if this is a good thing, because I've been pretty bad when I've sat there and been outspoken about these games as of late. But I think the Eagles go down and beat their backs out. I see that one coming.
Right.
I think that's going to happen. So it's definitely a game I would consider. It's just, Wentz got his week of preseason out the way, just like other people have done in their time. It's time to roll now.
Yep.
And I think this is not going to be a pretty game for Tennessee.
Right. They had their mulligan per se, right? And it actually was a loss. So.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to whack them. I don't know if I'm agreeing or disagreeing with him here, but I actually think Wentz has another fairly average game, but I think the defense rolls.
Yeah.
I think they put the ball in the end zone at least once. I think Mariota is a coin flip for me to finish the game.
Yeah.
The weapons that the Titans have, the ways they can hurt you, they pretty much play into the Eagles' hands. And not to mention, situationally, Tennessee's in a terrible, terrible spot.
Following the physical game against Jacksonville, who do they have on the schedule next?
Next up after this, For Tennessee or the Eagles, I'm sorry.
Tennessee.
You know, maybe
They go to Buffalo.
maybe you know maybe win or lose, the Eagles can bring Rashard Matthews home with them. Guy wants
I
out.
saw the numbers, and basically, when you go on the road and you win as an underdog in a division, like Tennessee just did last week, and then you come home and you are again an underdog, it's hard to muster up the same performance that you would need to top two straight teams that are, objectively better than you.
Right, not even, and that doesn't even factor in that Carson Wentz is now in a second week back, and any kind of intensity that he's going to personally bring into that game with he wants to roll, right? You know what I mean? He had to.
I don't think you're looking at a 400-yard game out of him or anything.
Right, and that's right. I'm not.
If he's going to have a breakout,
too good for that.
If he's going to have a breakout game, it's going to be next week.
I don't necessarily mean a breakout game. I just mean he's just chomping at the bit to play just to play football. You know what I mean? That's a hard.
I think he can work him back in easily. Man, this game is just big play after big play.
I think the Eagles go Olivia Newton-John and just get real physical and call it a day. I don't think it's going to be close. It's not going to be pretty numbers as far as fireworks in the air via Carson Wentz at all. So I do agree with you on that front. That being said, I think it's going to be pretty clear who the better team is by the time this game is over.
And actually, two
probably
outdated
before
musical
halftime.
references in this segment.
There you go.
For the Music City, right? Go Birds. The Raiders are hosting the Browns.
Nope. Staying away.
Sorry,
Stay
Carlos.
away.
The Raiders got to play.
Look, they can't take the collar for the entire season, I hope. So this
you probably do at this point.
This is actually a
about a guy named Nick Bosa.
this is actually a good spot for Oakland, believe it or not. At home against a rookie starting quarterback, he gets to prepare for the first time. Those numbers about teams being on rest after that Thursday night game are quite inflated if you look at the actual stats. It's a good spot. If there's a spot where they're going to actually win one, where they should win one, that's a dot. That's a dot. Yeah, Cooper Kupp again.
And he is in the Jabroni lineup.
I was online today and didn't put him in.
All right, so never mind that. Yeah.
Take that.
Shout out to the white wide receiver coming back in life.
Finish your thought.
Finish my thought. I think this is a game that you don't touch survivor-wise. It's just.
Well, we definitely advocate don't chasing losers.
You can't trust Oakland, and I'm not going to sit there and all of a sudden just start following Baker Mayfield for his first start. I need to see something a little bit more than a quarter of football. And I like him too. I think he's a winner.
He looked great. But imagine saying in this matchup you don't want to chase the losers, so don't take the Browns. The Cardinals are hosting the Seahawks. This is a stay away.
I said earlier I like Arizona on the spread, but
Historically, this would be so over the top Seahawks.
It should be, and it's weird.
Right.
For me to say stay away, I'm sitting here. Now I'll just remind everybody one more time. I took Seattle last week, and I'm damn proud of it.
Yeah.
But this is a chance for Seattle to make something of its season, and I would think that Seattle is going to win this game, but for survivor purposes and risk management, no, they're clearly, we've already talked about some of them, clearly better games to pick.
I'm actually hoping their safety gets traded to another team in green by the start of that game. But
yeah. Hey, Rashard Matthews
a boy can have hope.
Is that on the? Is that word on the street or?
No,
because I heard Le'Veon
Earl wants out.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So and then we now have a need for safety. So
right, but what hammer do you have to trade?
Howie is great at picking pockets.
Yeah, John Schneider's not a pocket that you pick. I'm telling you that right now.
That salary cap situation starts getting real.
That's the thing. Yeah. In the coming weeks, I'm sure the Le'Veon Bell thing will percolate more and more. The longer it percolates, the better.
It's time for the percolator.
The more that it percolates, the more that plays into the Eagles' hands because you have the Steelers more by the short ones. But okay, so Rob and Carlos, it's fair to say that you're not looking at Seahawks Cardinals, right?
Hell no.
All right. We're going to move on to the Giants hosting the Saints.
No thanks.
No.
Yeah. Agreed.
I would go Saints there. Saints would be on my short list, but I'm biased. So.
All right. It's a game I like. The Chargers are hosting the 49ers.
There it is.
and this has potential.
This is the one This is the one I was talking about with. If you're going to take Green Bay, this has all the same reasons, but better. Chargers are coming home off a loss. Okay, San Francisco's in their second of a back-to-back with a guy that, thank God I watch as much college football as I do, or I never would have heard of him.
Iowa, right?
At quarterback, yes, correct, very good.
Bobby Beathard's son.
Beat Michigan on a Saturday night in November to knock us out of the national championship.
I knew I liked that guy for a reason.
There you go. But this is the one I would like. It might not be pretty, just because the Chargers don't seem to crush anybody.
Horrible home favorite.
However,
do not do this for entertainment purposes for everyone looking at LA.
Like I said, I wouldn't take San Francisco because, as I said, if I take an underdog, I need to be able to see a scenario in which they win the game, and I can't see that with San Francisco. So this is my favorite pick this week, LA Chargers.
Yeah, I'm right there with them and the Eagles. Obviously, the Chargers being home makes me feel somewhat a little bit better about them, but then on the other hand, you're talking about the trusting the Eagles and the Chargers, but either part of me wants to trust the Eagles more. But again, I'm splitting hairs at that point. It's my tier one is Chargers and Eagles this week, and at least as I sit here right now,
I had to put my pick in today. I think I did go Chargers.
It's a good pick, especially when someone's making you put some leagues make you put in on Thursday, and it adds a tough element to it. Okay, so we're down to the primetime games. The Steelers are hosting the Ravens on Sunday night, and the Broncos are hosting the Chiefs on Monday night. I'm not going to look at either one of these games. However, I will say that I can't rule out the Chiefs literally just continuing to roll. But if they're going to lose a game here and there, this could be here and there.
It's not in the division on Monday night.
I'm not touching it.
In Denver,
Andy's going to be Andy at some point, and it's just a matter of when. So you're trying to catch a falling knife, taking the Chiefs.
If you ask 100 people to name the 5 biggest rivalries in the NFL, you're going to get a lot of votes for both of these two games.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a dead stay away.
Oh, yeah.
In survival.
really?
Yeah, Ravens Steelers
are no brainer. Chiefs
Yeah.
Broncos, I think you get some votes. I'm not saying it wins, but I think it gets some votes.
I think it's Raiders and everyone else in that division as far as rivalries go.
So as far as rivalries go, to have those two games back to back on Sunday night, Monday night,
I would really have to think about that.
It's going to be a
personal bias.
couple of weepy-eyed mornings. Yeah. Okay, so there you have it. I think we did a pretty good job of laying out the games that we really like, games that have interesting elements to them, and games to avoid. We're going to take one more quick break, and we're going to come back with games not to bet. Jabronis.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of the Philly Sports Jabronis? Want to get together over tea and scones and share with us your life story? No thanks. We hate tea and scones. But we do have a website you can visit that offers all the jabroni action you can handle. Go to www.phillysportsjabronis. That's JABRONIS.com. Yahoo! The Philly Sports Jabronis are everywhere. We're online. We're streaming through the internet airwaves.
Can you hear me?
We're probably hiding in your bushes.
Hey, get out of there.
Oh, and we have social media pages. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Philly Sports Jabs. And for God's sakes, trim your bushes. It's like Jumanji in here. Who are your top 5 Philly outfielders of all time? What's your pick for the top 5 all-time Philadelphia sports jerseys? Who are the top 5 Philly athletes you'd never let babysit your kids? Let us know by visiting My Top 5 at phillysportsjabronis.com and let us know. Again, that's My Top 5, and the website is phillysportsjabronis.com.
All right, we're back, and I'm just going to do some real quick housekeeping here because we're going to come to a hard stop after games not to bet. I want to thank Nippers for having us once again. DJ's going to get rolling pretty soon, so we may get some dance club games not to bet action. We will be following up over the weekend with a file dedicated to games not to bet that you'll definitely get to rehash some of the picks. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you 3 guys who are the definitely well above and beyond me dissecting point spreads and favorites and underdogs and whatever. So let's where can we save people money this week?
All right. Well, like I promised last week, we'll start by reviewing what we said last week. which was stay away from the Bears and the Cardinals. Cardinals were a 5 to 6 point underdog, okay? And there is no reason to trust the Arizona Cardinals, but they did cover.
They took the money.
Okay? That, to me, it paid off in the end, so it's hindsight is 2020, but that, to me, is exactly what I mean when I say don't bet this game.
Right.
Arizona dominated that game for 45 minutes. Utterly dominated it. Yet Chicago came back and won outright. But Arizona takes the money.
They were a penalty away from Chicago sitting win and one outright because Rosen sat there through that pick six.
And you got a guy who threw one pick six and you give him 2 more minutes, he possibly throws another. This is the kind of stuff we talk about when we say stay away from these games. I was sitting watching this game with a Bears fan, and he says, I can't believe I got to sit here for 90 minutes just to watch them beat the bleeping Cardinals. And it was like right there, I thought to myself, maybe I should take the Cardinals because, people are always wrong when they say things like that.
Or just say go Cards at that point. That's what I would have done.
Switch my focus to this week. The first game, and we might have given this away during the Survivor segment, but the first one I'm going to stay clear of is Miami and New England. And the reason why is we just haven't seen a whole lot of trust either way. We can't say yes, we can't say no to New England yet. Can't do it. Not at 6.5, not at the 7 it's probably going to. Do I think New England's going to win? Yeah. Do I feel comfortable saying it's going to be by a touchdown or more? Nope. So I'm staying away from that one. Then we'll go to the late slate, and since I try to make a point of not telling people to stay off the Sunday night or Monday night games, because everybody wants to bet those, right? Let's go with the Giants and the Saints. New Orleans going to New York, 3-point favorites in New York. What? Now, the Giants, here's the thing. So far, it's been a combination of the Saints facing explosive offenses or playing down to their competition. Well, nobody's going to confuse the Giants with an explosive offense.
Right.
So what's that leave? They had Cleveland come in week 2 in a spot where Cleveland should have just gotten destroyed. Off to tie with Pittsburgh, going into a Thursday night game that everyone rightfully circled as the one that was going to break the Browns' losing streak. That game in New Orleans week 2 should have been an absolute slaughterhouse. What happened? The Browns' kicker had to choke it away for him in the end. Not only did New Orleans not cover the 10, they damn near lost the football game.
Yeah.
So now I got them coming up here at 4:25 on a Sunday afternoon to play the Giants, who have looked like crap so far. They're only 3-point favorites. Next week, New Orleans has another home game on Monday Night Football. There's a dead spot in the schedule. At the same time, here comes that other side. You're trusting the New York Giants. You're trusting Eli Manning, who is 2 years past washed up at this point. I think Saquon can run wild on the Saints defense, but I don't think that Breeze is going to suddenly lay an egg either. I don't trust either side here. I can't trust the Saints defense. I know they're going to put up points, though. So I'm going to stay away from that game. So, New England, Miami, New Orleans, New York Giants. Stay away from those two.
Anything? Any more games?
Nah. Boom. Hey, DJ, kick it.
Yep.
Thought I just heard Poison about to be the first track.
Nah, I think it's about to make us some Cardi B.
Save your money on those games. Jabroni signing off. Want to once again thank Nippers for having us, and we'll talk to you soon.
First. DJ, kick it.